All right, Dr. Kealoha, thank you so much for getting on this, getting on this waka with us. It is yeah, kind of interesting debate conversation already. So when it comes to when it comes to indigenous knowledge, quick Google search, and yeah, your name comes like definitely in like the first page,
Oh,
at least in my page. I don't know. Maybe there's something with Google, my Google, I don't know. But I think see that as a compliment to your state of work. Obviously, you don't like titles and roles and everything else, but you're very distinguished. So yeah, let's jump right into it, Dr. Kealoha. Indigenous knowledge, where it is right now. First thoughts when I ask you the question. Yeah, when I ask you that question.
my first thought that comes to mind is firstly how Olilaha now happy birthday, and I'm thinking of how this is Indigenous knowledge in action, that you choose to spend your birthday weaving us together across the Pacific as Indigenous communities to celebrate the birth that you came to this side. And I'm thinking of you, and I'm especially thinking of your mother and your father that gifted you to this side of our realm. That's the first thing that comes to mind, quite honestly.
Mahalo. Thank you so much for sharing that. Appreciate it. That makes me very happy. Yeah, thank you.
And then the second thing that comes to mind for me is really the state of health and medicine and the role of healing and collective action. And I think even us coming together in these ways, virtually through distance, is an act of healing in and of itself. And I believe, fundamentally, I really structure the philosophy of my work to not just think about the individual person being healthy, but really think about healthy places and entire structures that can heal a future. And so I really try to commit my work to definitely decolonizing the field of healthcare, but also indigenizing that personal, familial, and communal activity towards well-being once again, where we as Indigenous communities always were, until these oppressive systems started to erode our physical, our spiritual, our emotional, environmental health over time, which I got to see Mr. Watts, and he was really spot on. I feel like everything that he was sharing about Aotearoa and his work in the ministry is so aligned to exactly my role here as a leader in healthcare for our people as well.
So let's. I like to, if ever that's a term, reverse engineer actually to the point where we are right now. So what is the in your view, in your mind, like the utopian view, like what would you like to see? What is your vision when it comes to decolonization, comma decolonizing healthcare?
I love that term, reverse engineer. I think that's such an ancestral way of us retaining our mo'olelo, our stories, and actually continuing them so that they continue to live today. And that's so much about my work in decolonizing healthcare and really decolonizing the conventional medical practices where I was, really trained, right? I will say that's it's been a sector and a community that's been incredibly welcoming to me, my ideas and my healthcare interventions. However, I know that that's not actually the case for the majority of us. And so I think it starts with one, as it is an ability to represent the many. And I think it also takes real, genuine allyship, partnership, and collaboration of those who are not Indigenous, excuse me, to be able to keenly listen, observe, uplift, and actually promote Indigenous knowledge so that it lives within these structures and these systems. And that's where I've seen a lot of the strengths and successes in my own career, though short compared to many of the revered elders and kupuna who I've seen so far on this list. That's what's worked for me. And I hope that you share those similar successes in your own story that you continue today.
Thank you. Well, it's sharing stories. It's documenting a journey. Maybe that, at least that's what I'm trying to do. Because I don't want to pull this whole conversation towards myself because I'm not interesting at this point. Yeah, it is. I don't know a lot. I don't know anything, but I'm very much interested in learning. And in that sense, I want to take people with me along that journey, so they can learn with me or learn a little bit more. And especially when it comes to the Pacific region, it's still considered Asia Pacific within the United Nations context, which is unfortunate at best. And indigenous knowledge is something that is something that any thoughts, by the way, it has been touted a couple of times. Indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge. Do you make a point in the distinction, or is it either or for you?
I do, and I'm so happy and so fortunate to tee up Dr. Kame'eleihiwa, who I know is just after me. I'm so lucky to work with her, and Dr. Katie Kamelamela, who I think is on later in the show as well. We've talked about this actually at length during the pandemic here in Hawaii as Native Hawaiian women. And what, I'll borrow from her, and really this is a tee up to her, is there is traditional knowledge all around the world. For example, many different cultures, many different countries and empires have traditional knowledge. Not all of that knowledge, however, is indigenous, right? And so I think there is an importance to make that distinction for us as Indigenous, Native, First Nations, and Aboriginal peoples. There really is a commitment that has, I think, been a part of the more recent narrative that I've been a part of to really distinguish the two. And so traditional indigenous knowledge, I think, is a great way to frame it. And I hope that we're able to use those specific qualifiers moving forward as a community.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kealoha, is there any, because we're also running a little bit out of time, but you have a little bit more time though. Is there anything that you want to talk about and you're like, oh my God, Ghazali, I can't believe you asked me about it. I really want to talk about this. Something that I forgot to ask you, because there's so many things that you are distinguished enough to talk about. Obviously, Dr. Kalei is afterwards, but like from your perspective, anything that you would like to share?
I've been lucky to be in so many different fora this week, and what I've continued to come back to is that for us, it's so natural to include art and language in history and dance, these forms into what we describe as health and healing for our people, our families, and the communities that we come from, and really trying to bring that into the systems and fractured organizations that we're seeing during the pandemic, I think is a great way for us to offer tools for solutions, right? I believe that everyone has a right to live long, healthy lives, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are. And so I think that us as Indigenous peoples have tremendous wisdom to be able to share about how we live so healthfully in harmony with one another, in harmony with our place, and how systems actually themselves can be empowered to be healing tools. Or as we're seeing now, I think across the board with all of these different isms, we're seeing so much fracturing of systems that haven't been set up for the well-being of all and collectivity.
Thank you. And the final question that's been hanging on ever since we started this whole conversation, that's been on my mind. Your favorite spicy food?
That is not one, actually. That's not what I thought you were going to ask me. Well, I absolutely love like spicy hot sauce and spicy things. So when I eat, I tend to always have something to dip or to pour over. And so I kind of make everything spicy. Maybe it's because I'm an Aries and that just comes with all of this inherent fire and this passion to keep fueling me every day. I'm not sure, but definitely spicy food.
And like the spicier, the better, or is it like, is there like, oh, wow.
Oh, spicier the better. Yeah.
Oof, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kealoha. Thank you so much for your time. Definitely keep in touch and on everything, hopefully in the future and whatever you do. Mahalo for your time and for your work. Yeah, for your range of work as well.
Mahalo nui. Happy birthday. Aloha.
Thank you so much. Aloha.